Um, to be honest, the Patriotic Socialist label, when we actually get to sit down and think about it, it's lame as fuck, okay? We are not patriotic socialists. That's like, because I was thinking about it, and it really sounds like some shit Bernie or AOC would call themselves to pander to the fucking, the Democratic Party or some shit. It's a name that sounds lame as fuck, alright? Don't identify with the labels the enemy throws. I mean, if the enemy keeps calling us, I don't know, if they call us, people who ain't worth shit or something like that. You don't identify with what the slander and smears of your enemy is. If our enemy calls us a bunch of dumb fucks, we don't just go, oh, then we're dumb fucks. Okay, then we are bad. We don't do that shit, right? And we have to sit down and really think and reflect if really, do we want to be known as the patriotic socialists? I mean, the reason why that's such... I mean, okay, look, I don't mind if some people are going to identify this way, but I'm going to give you a few reasons why I don't like the name patriotic socialism. I'm just going to list them off. I'm going to tell you what kind of my gripe and my beef with that specific label really is. So first off, what I really don't like about it is it sounds opportunistic, right? It sounds like we're trying to pander to something, or we're trying to sound like we're trying to appear less. We're trying to I don't like any name that tries to dull the communism effect, right? Like, for example, that's what democratic socialism does, right? Democratic socialism is where you kind of just say, oh, I'm not like that scary Stalin guy. I'm a democratic socialist. So, we don't do that shit over here. You know what I mean? We don't do that shit. We're communists with a capital C, you understand? We are capital C communists with absolutely nothing to apologize for and nothing to cover for. The patriotic socialism thing sounds like opportunism to me, right? It sounds like you're trying to apologize or cover for some shit, right? And we don't got anything to apologize for. We are communists. We are communists with a capital C. We're going to embrace that. We're going to own that, okay? The second thing I don't like about it is that it kind of sounds like this weird form of revisionism, which is actually the intended effect. That's why it's a form of slander and it's a smear, right? I mean, Bernstein had his evolutionary socialism, all this kind of shit. We don't need to add all of these, prefixes and all these wacky combinations and shit. We are communists. We're Marxist-Leninists. We're communists. We don't have to complicate that and make it sound like we're trying to, it just sounds like some revisionist bullshit, right? Patriotic socialism, right? And they specifically threw that name on us to give that effect. I want to keep stressing that and emphasizing that fact. They've done it because they're trying to make it seem like we are just this new thing that came out of nowhere. We're like, oh, those are the Pat socks. They're trying to fucking put us in a box that we're not in. So patriotic socialism sounds like some shit that Bernie or AOC would say if we went to war with Russia or China. That sounds like something they're going to identify with because they're fucking projecting. They're just projecting, right? Okay. Another thing too is I'm not really a fan of this kind of post World War II wacky kind of third position type of thing where it's oh, we're going to be national syndicalists and we're going to be this and we're going to be that. And I'm just not on board with it. I don't really partake or particularly like it myself, right? Yeah, and also they like how it's kind of like national socialism, but with the patriotic prefix instead of the national one. Just another way to delegitimize us and try and make us look bad and shit like that. And then so yeah, I'm really not a big fan of that. I'm really not a big fan of the patriotic socialism thing. The reason I'm saying this is because I started to think about how many ways are we gaslighted by our fucking enemies into just adopting shit that wasn't our original intention, but we just adopted it out of spite again. I don't want to fucking do that, right? It was never our intention as infrared to be patriotic. And then this is another thing I want to get at is that I also don't like how parochial it sounds. And when I mean by parochial, I mean like, infrared is really about Zaha Hadid, PS5 energy type shit. I mean, look at the background we got right now. I mean, look at this shit. You know what I mean? This shit is professional level. You understand? So we never wanted to be like, have this effect or have this kind of imagery of just being like, we don't want to be this kind of like Philistine parochial thing where it's like we are trying to be Luddites that are hiding from the effects of modernity. Actually, it's really surprising that Dugan is the one who raised this point, but one of the showrunners linked this to me. And it's interesting because it's like Dugan himself pointed this out. Dugan pointed out how, like, conservatives in the United States, they're kind of like Luddites, right? They kind of have this thing where they're just trying to resist the Great Reset, and they're just trying to resist this nefarious agenda. And what I think we should be about instead of that is just be like, we're going to have our own Great Reset. You know what I mean? Like, the elites are too weak to implement that agenda. They're too hypocritical. And we're not going to be scared of this new era, right? And I really think, so the patriotic socialism thing, first of all, it's redundant, right? Because that's what Marxism-Leninism was about. Marxism-Leninism in the 20th century was 100% patriotic. The thing we have to come to terms with, and the type of thing we have to kind of make peace with or, wrap our heads around somehow, is this issue of globalism, right? This idea of the globe, of globality, this abstraction of globality, right? And that's kind of where things get a little more complicated. I don't really like the label patriotic socialism because the patria of patriotism is for the country of modernity, right? That's what it is. It's the country. It's the French Republic. That's what it is. That kind of seems a little outdated today, right? Today, you don't really have the patria as much as you have these regional globe, these different forms of globality, these different globalities. There's a Russian world, there's a European world, there's a Latin world, whatever. It's about these globes, right? Which is a very different thing than a country, so to speak. It's a civilization and it's a big space. It's a polarity. Yeah, a civilization state if you want, right? And I want us to be worthy of the era. I don't want us to be reacting to the era or somehow trying to resist it in vain. What infrared has always been about is being worthy of the era we now find ourselves in and the era that we're living in, right? So it's about a new era, right? And that doesn't mean we're going to be like progressives, right? But one of the main things that Marxism was always about was embracing the inevitable change that's on the horizon, right? Instead of taking refuge in the comfortable and familiar forms of the past, you have to somehow embrace the fact that, this future that's on the horizon, in some sense, one way or another, is inevitable, right?